Previously on Dirt, Sweat, and Gears.
In 2020, I was scammed by a friend of mine for 10 years. Now I am finally fully recovered. That is one impressive erection. My grandmother is the original owner of this car. I have 8 cars. Welcome to Dirt, Sweat, and Gears, your road trip of road rage. We are here down, well, somewhere in Southern California at a private garage where my car is being stored. You see here, my beard may be a little bit messed up because I rode here on my motorcycle. I took a 35-mile trip from my house to work, now to here. Let's go inside and take a look at this car. Hey! So we are here with the Maverick down here in storage, and I have to figure out what to do with this car. You see, I recently acquired a 76 Camaro Rally Sport, and I really don't have room for 2 classic cars, especially since one of them is an actual muscle car and the other is something that I just say is a muscle car. So we're here with Chris. He runs this little place here, and he's got my car. And so, Chris, I guess what I'm looking at here is, you know, this decision: should I keep it and keep working on it, or should I get rid of it? And the thing is, this car has a lot of potential, and it's really a lot of untapped potential. It has a 302 from the factory, really cool car, but it's attached to a 3-speed with a 280 rear end. So it's just and it's low compression also from the factory.
So what did this car come with from the factory as far as a transmission?
3-speed on the tree.
I feel like some people might want to just leave it that way.
You think so? You think
You know what I mean? I'm sure there's going to be someone out there that's going to want this package and just maybe brings them back to a time in high school or back in the day.
You know, I do have, that's the thing is I have all of the original parts except for the original distributor, which I'm pretty sure no one wants anyway. You know,
You'd be surprised.
I have the original, the skinny wheels with the hubcaps. The hubcaps was a really good find. I have the original wheels and hubcaps. I have the original. So this car has, just to backtrack a little bit, obviously this car has some period correct aftermarket wheels. These are American racing, you know, with the old school Ford badge, which I think is really cool. Right now, I'm just having trouble with the carburetor tune. Because it spits when I stomp on the gas. I probably have it advanced too far. That's because I was trying to make it a little bit, wake it up a little bit.
Yeah,
the car is
a little bit more pep.
Yeah, because it's like 8.5 compression, you know, mated to a 3-speed and just a total turd of a rear end. You know, it's basically the Ford Bronco put in what could have been a muscle car. I'm going to say it could have been a muscle car. And everyone on YouTube is going to yell at me like, "Oh, it's not a muscle car." You know, but aside from that, I have all of those original parts except for the distributor. I've got it had some weird aftermarket points distributor. Definitely not factory because it's not in the book. Mm-hmm. I put in an MSD, of course, with, you know, the high conducting wires and all that.
Which is a way to go, especially the newer ignition systems in this. It only improves the overall performance of the motor versus you always dicking with it and making fine-tune adjustments.
Yeah.
It gets old after a while. You just want to hop in and go. Yeah.
And there's one thing that I was thinking about trying. There's a guy on YouTube called Thunderhead 289. He created what he calls the carb cheater. Mm-hmm. And it's basically just a plate that goes underneath the carburetor that connects to a wideband O2 sensor, and it adds vacuum in order to correct for like a rich mixture. Mm. And so he uses that as like kind of like a ghetto EFI, which is really neat setup, and it's completely reversible. You just take it out and the car runs exactly the way it did before. That's
it's
something I might experiment with.
Sounds like a hybrid version between carburetor and fuel injection.
Kinda, yeah,
Basically.
because like I said, it runs off of a wideband. So the benefit of having a wideband to begin with is that it makes all of that tuning much easier because you've got
Sure.
the data right in front of you.
Right.
So that may be something in order to get this thing running right, which I think probably we should at least do that. You know, even if I decide to get rid of it, it should be as safe as it can be.
Yeah.
And it should run right, because if I take it out for a test drive with someone and it spits when they stomp on the gas, they're gonna be like, well, I'm gonna give you like $3,000 less. It doesn't run right. Ooh. So I want to fix that for sure.
Well, it's salvage title.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, the carburetor doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this thing is so original, and I have all of these parts for it. It even has the smog sticker on it. Like, the numbers are pathetic. I mean, they're hilariously high.
Wow.
But this is how original this car is.
They definitely don't build it like they used to. That's for sure.
We're turning into those old guys. We need lawn chairs.
Well, yeah,
You don't
yeah.
build them like they used to.
Yeah, that's right. Here's another Coors Light. Sorry.
Dude, we used to drink Coors Light all day, every day.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Hey, it's a good beer. I'm not clowning on the Coors.
It's a good social beer.
Yes.
Because you can
exactly.
drink like 50,000 of them and not even get a buzz.
Yeah, right.
Let's pop the hood so we can take a look at what's underneath.
All right.
That pop is normal.
Oh yeah.
And then down here, I'm going to turn this on, if it will turn on. There we go. Yeah, that's a little helpful. So like I said, this is aftermarket. I replaced the ignition solenoid. Alternator is new. And then fuel pump intake. I painted the intake Ford blue so you don't even notice it. And then a nice big 4-barrel carburetor on it. It had a 2-barrel on it, so I think that's a worthy upgrade regardless of what you feel about this car, you know? You know, what direction you want to take it.
Sure.
And obviously I want to detail it. I mean, I'm going to have to steam clean it and
Yeah, if you get the engine bay and do a nice little wash on it, definitely
Yeah.
come out good.
I think so. I mean, you're really steering me in the direction of make this what's here
Work.
the right car.
Yeah.
You know, one of the most common upgrades they say to wake this engine up is an exhaust, but then you start getting into that trap because now I'm going to have to fabricate a custom exhaust.
And you're also going to have to fabricate that smog sticker and manipulate
This is
those
actually
numbers.
smog
Yeah.
exempt. It's a 73.
No, right, I know. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But you know, even getting to that level, if I cross that bridge, I'm going to be like, I want to do everything, because this is going to sound really cool with it, dual exhaust.
Oh no, absolutely.
But that's going to
Absolutely.
involve, I mean, God, you're going to have to pay someone to, I mean, do you weld?
Yeah, I do.
You know, like I would have to, I mean, I could pay you to do it, if that's something you're willing to do, but get a pair of long tubes. The problem is that it's really tight in there. And
Yeah, there's not a lot of room, unfortunately.
I mean, I've read people talk about it's possible if you rock the engine back and forth on the mounts, and I'm like, dude, that sounds kind of like a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they say definitely doable with the engine out, but I'm not taking this engine out. That is way more work than I want to do.
Yeah.
If my intent is at least within the next year to get rid of it.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to get this running correctly.
Yeah.
And especially if you're even considering selling it,
Yeah,
get it running and then sell it. Because once you start engaging into a project,
yeah,
I've done a few of these where, you know, you want to take a Mustang, for example, and convert and do a bunch of different modifications to it. It ends up being quite a nightmare at times.
I mean, you've built some pretty serious cars too, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I've been a mechanic for a race team for several years on various different cars, but I started off in the vintage world. And they're nice to work on, especially the older cars, because you don't have a lot of electronics and all these things, and it's fairly simple to get them running. But once you engage in a project, it could be never ending. Getting parts could be difficult.
It becomes pretty much a commitment for as long as you own the car and or live.
That's right. Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
because and the question is, do I want to do that with this car? And you know,
If you were to keep it.
if I were to
If you were to keep
yes.
it and you want to make it, personalize it, then yeah, then you can go to town and, put a supercharger on this if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But
I mean, ideally, I like the fact that it's the original motor.
Yeah.
I really like that. So in a perfect world, I would keep the block. Obviously do the exhaust, and then probably just a cam and lifters.
yeah,
And I think this would, made to do a 5-speed and a 373 rear end.
Sure.
This would be a really great streetable car, quick
Sure.
enough.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't even want to take it to a drag race because it's so clean. I mean,
Sure.
it's just too nice. But it's also too nice for me,
That's good standards, I guess.
I have I have a lot of shitty cars, and I think I should be putting attention. I typically put my attention to the shittiest car, and by the time I get around to
the
this,
car that needs the most amount of work. It's
Yeah.
like, that just sounds awesome.
pretty much, which means by the time I get around to this, if I were to keep it for a long time, we're talking a decade.
Yeah.
If I don't acquire any more cars, which
Which a chance of that happening is,
at this point.
yeah.
So this Camaro, my grandmother was the original owner.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
She gave it to my dad, and my dad gave it to his friend, and she was furious with him because she was like, I wanted you to keep it in the family, and my dad was like, well, Craig is family, and she was like, that's not what I meant.
So I'm assuming that your dad didn't talk to your mom, or I'm sorry, your grandma, about the whole transition of the car.
No. And after that, it just disappeared. Like literally, no one knew where it was. We thought it could have been in Little Rock. We thought it could have been in a junkyard.
Yeah.
Anything
And it did
was
somewhere
possible.
in Lancaster.
Like nobody. We had decided it was a loss, and my grandma would always talk about this car like, I'm so sad I let it go, and how she would always talk about how cool it was. It 76 Camaro Rally Sport factory 350 with side pipes installed at the dealer. I mean, just
Does it run? Is it a running car, or is it?
It ran when parked in the early 90s.
Yeah. Okay.
So no.
All right. You got a project for you.
Yeah.
For sure.
And just, also that's another thing, just knowing the scope of that project. I'm never going to get to this if I intend to keep it.
You would have to pick one
Yeah.
to really kind of invest your time and money into.
And this one, I think what I could do is, not only get some money for it to roll into other projects, but get it in the hands of someone who is going to love it. Because the Maverick, I told you this off camera, this is something I learned from having coworkers in Mexico and a wife from Mexico. The Maverick, anywhere Mexico and south of Mexico, all of South America, is their Mustang. They did not have Mustangs. They had some in Mexico, but the farther south you get, the more this becomes their Mustang. Like down in, there's some really cool hot rod scenes down, in like Brazil and down there, and they have Mavericks instead of Mustangs.
Mm-hmm.
So there are people that love this car.
Sure. Absolutely.
This is somebody's dream car.
It's a clean car. It really is a clean car. If you look at the body's in good shape. It's definitely been taken care of, and whoever makes a purchase on this car is either gonna modify it completely, tear everything out of it, so everything that you just mentioned and previously is gonna get ripped apart.
That's gonna get really sad.
And or they're gonna maybe just
Yeah.
put some fine touches on it and really get in, to get this car period correct. And
So for someone that is looking for specifically a Survivor, unrestored, mostly unmodified, it's lightly modified. I'd say tastefully modified.
yeah, of course.
You
It's
know,
modified to a point where it's easy to go back
you
to
could
the beginning.
very easily
Yeah.
undo what I did to it.
Yep.
And that was one of the main motivations behind the things I did to it. I have the factory drum brakes. I have the factory intake.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why you'd want to put it on. It weighs about 1,000 pounds, but you can if that's something that you really want to do.
If someone, like I said, wants this car to be period correct,
Yeah.
as it was, since day one,
Yeah.
then yeah, that's the only reason. But if someone plans on using this car to, typical Sunday joyride,
Yeah.
leave it, make sure it runs good,
Yeah.
and then enjoy it.
I think that's definitely the plan, because at the very least, if I decide that I don't want to get rid of it, that if for some reason my wife is okay with me having 8 cars, at least I made it a
Then
better
you
car
ask her
for
if
me.
she has a sister, because that'd be amazing. It's like,
So some of the things I know about this car, it doesn't start because the flywheel is chewed up. So we still have to at least pull the transmission back.
sure.
So that's going to suck, but there's no way around that. Do you think we should do a clutch also? Because the clutch feels really good.
Depending on the condition of the clutch, once the gearbox is out, inspect it, check
Okay.
the plates.
Okay.
If everything looks good, then put it back together. But if a clutch is fairly inexpensive, which I'm not really sure what the prices of clutches on something like this would be, but if it's inexpensive, swap it. Put
I
new
think
plates
one of
in
the,
and
I think to that point, I think one of the things I don't know about this car is the diameter. So there's 2 different diameters, I think like 10-inch and 13-inch or something like that.
pull it apart, measure it,
Exactly.
and then
So
take it from there.
I know the flywheel is, I think, only one size. So that would be a safe bet to buy it. But what's the point if I don't even know if I'm going to buy a clutch until then? So we would want to pull that first.
Pull it, check the parts,
Yeah.
see what you want to do, and then kind of make a decision from there.
And then in terms of underneath the car, the only other thing it needs, the power steering piston. It's a weird. It's like a Jeep. The steering rack. It's like a Jeep, really. So the piston that provides power to the assembly is leaking, and power steering fluid all over the place. So I probably want to replace that and the lines.
Come on, what's an old car that doesn't leak? You got to leave that alone.
But it's like, because it has power steering from the 70s, it's over assisted, so you just barely touch it with your finger, and you could just turn lock to lock just like that. It's so funny.
That's awesome.
You just miss cars like this, when you're in a modern car.
Of course, of course.
I love that there's no screens flashing at me. Like, I don't have to wear my glasses just to drive a car. And it's so simple. And it's also engaging because it's a manual. It's a column manual, which is a little weird.
Sure.
But that in itself is actually kind of fun too. Have you driven through on the tree?
I don't think I have. I'll be honest with you. I don't think I have.
It's-
A lot of the stuff that I've driven, mostly Mustangs. I've driven Cobras. Everything was just, was not on the tree. It was down below in a tunnel.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's
a little different.
It is pretty much like driving a truck, but it's such a neat, unique
Man, it's got
experience.
that old car smell.
Yeah,
I love it.
It really does. I mean, it wasn't smoked in or anything. Like I said, time capsule on the inside.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very clean car.
Yeah.
Nice and straight. Like I said, it's somewhat unmolested.
Yeah. Is there any sense in having paint correction places like that?
It just depends on how far you want to go with the car.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of brings us back to the same point.
Because if I do that, then I'm looking at fixing up the chrome.
Then
There's
you got to do little
underneath.
parts like this all over the car, over by the windows, by, you know, the door jambs.
Yeah.
So once you tackle this, you're gonna have to, if this bugs you, then a few of the other things surrounding the car is gonna do the same thing.
So I'd probably be better off just with a solid detail. I might want it professionally detailed.
Yeah.
Honestly. So there's only so much I'm capable of just with my skill.
Sure.
And, you know, actually I did this. I don't think it was my fault. I think because...
It's like something, a box or something?
The paint just fell off of it. I used a machine polisher, which, you know, but I was pretty gentle with it. But this spot, the paint just fell off. And I think it's because when between the previous owner and getting it to me, it sat in a carport, and the back had a little bit of sun exposure, and I think that's why that happened. And of course down here, it's fading off because of the gas. I mean, that was a huge problem with pretty much anything that you filled from the middle center of the car.
Sure, of course.
Is you just dump gas all over the middle of it.
Just eats up the paint after a while.
Yeah. Other things, quick note, I've replaced the fuel sending unit with the fuel float, so it shows that it's empty because it is empty, not because it's broken, which was definitely a thing for a while. New suspension. I think it's lowered a little bit in the front, but you don't notice it because the rear sagged a little bit. So I would, if I were to make this my car, I'd definitely put new springs on the back and lower it a little bit. But
yeah, right.
You know, I like the ride height right where it is.
What did you replace the suspension with? So what's...
I think they're KYBs.
KYBs?
Yeah, they're decent shocks. And then up front, I forget which springs I got. I didn't get a cheap brand.
Yeah. Well, these cars were always bouncy, no matter whichever way you want to look at it. You know, they're never... Yeah. It's not going to be like a Honda Civic that's lowered. You know, it's completely different.
But it does feel pretty good. I mean, the car doesn't have sway bars. So, so for being the suspension that it has in it, it handles pretty good. So, and then the big wide tires just feel so good.
Nice to have a large footprint.
Yeah.
So, very cool car, Devin.
Well, thank you. So it's been a few weeks since we checked up on the Maverick, and I've had some time to think. I've also had a pretty incredible encounter with somebody. See, as I was working on the Camaro, I had to go out and get a battery. So as I was leaving to get this battery, I was driving past In-N-Out, and there was a car meet that had just finished their drive on Angeles Crest Highway. And I recognized one of the cars. It was actually somebody that I had followed on Instagram and had never met before. His name on Instagram is The Marvelous Maverick. I met him, really cool guy. He had a crew of Mustangs and a few Mavericks with him. It turns out this guy's pretty much an encyclopedia on Maverick owners and who owns a Maverick, who wants a Maverick. It turns out his cousin was also looking for a Maverick. And while that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to buy my Maverick, it does mean that there is interest out there. It does mean that there are people that want this out there. What I mean by that is there are people that will appreciate this car, take it out for drives when the weather's nice, not like right now where it's for some reason both sunny and raining at the same exact time. I don't know how that works. But this is somebody who loves the car, and that's just a really great thing to find, especially when I'm looking for that type of owner for this thing. But that doesn't mean that we're done with the Maverick here. You've only seen me do a couple of videos. I haven't done much with it. We have a few videos left to make. I have to do the work on the transmission, have to do the work on the steering, and I have to put a brake proportioning valve on there and solve the issues that are preventing this thing from running and driving like the great car that it is. And so there's plenty of work left to do on it, and we're going to go on that journey together, but the eventual goal, and hopefully the near term, is to find a new owner for that car. Now the next question is going to be, how much do you want for it? Well, I haven't quite yet decided. You see, I've seen some go for $20,000. I've seen some, you know, go for $200. So pretty much the max I could even think to ask is somewhere around the 15 mark. It's a very clean car. And once we do some work on it, we'll take a walk underneath it. Next time we have it up in the air, we're going to spend some time in the interior, and you're going to see this is an incredible car. But that number, that 15, is probably if I go ahead and fix everything with the car. Like if I take apart the dash, replace the heater core, get the fan working, the fan chatters a little bit. And so we're going to go through all of these issues as we work on this car, but that's going to be kind of like later stage. I want to get it running and driving before I start looking at these other issues, because somebody may want a little bit of a project. Someone may want to buy this car with these problems and give a fair price for it. I'm willing to come down on price with the less work that I have to do on this car. That's just what makes sense. So that's it for this video. I know this is a little bit different from my traditional format, going down and visiting my car off-site, meeting somebody else. Typically, it's just me in front of the camera, but this time, Chris was really gracious enough to join me on this journey. It was his first time being in front of the camera as well. Chris is an amazing, amazing mechanic. He has built race cars. He's started his career building Ford Mustangs and racing them in like classic car circuits, and has worked with Ferrari in their pit crew. He has done some amazing things. So I'm really happy to have my car in his hands. I know he's going to do it right. And hopefully we'll get a little bit of work done. And hopefully he'll be able to get it running well enough that we can drive it back here, do the finishing touches, get it detailed, and start showing it off. So that's it for this video. Next week, I know I promised a Camaro video. That's going to get pushed off for two reasons. One, the weather sucks right now. It has been pouring rain the past 5 days, and so I haven't been able to do anything to this car. Also, it turns out underneath the hood, things did not go as well as expected. We'll talk about that later. But the other reason it's going to get pushed off another week is because I did something really, really stupid. And I got to share that with you next week. So stay tuned. If you like what you see, like, share, subscribe, comment. If you don't like what you see, leave a comment. Tell me what I did wrong. Maybe you think the Maverick is a muscle car. Maybe you think the Maverick isn't a muscle car. Whatever your opinion on that is, leave a comment so that we can have a good old-fashioned internet argument. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.